Go live on Wolf. It's
Mhm.
always double check to make sure we're actually live before I start. But yeah, I can send you the link too if you wanted to retweet and let
Sure.
your squad people know that we are live out here. I'll send it to you in the DMs. But okay, cool, guys, we're live. Welcome to Wolf Web3. Welcome to the podcast today. We got Chris Donovan from the Near Foundation, COO of Near Foundation. So we're gonna chat today a little bit about life, career, Near, like all of those things, and just
Let's
see
do
kind
it.
of what goes behind the scenes, what's under the hood. But yeah, Chris, dude, thanks for coming by. I really, really appreciate you coming onto the show.
Yeah, pleasure. Great to be here, Cade. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I guess before we dive too deep into yourself, with Near Foundation specifically, what is like the role that they play? Like, what is the purpose of Near Foundation? I guess.
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you who don't know, the Near Foundation is a Swiss-based nonprofit. It's actually incorporated in Zug in Switzerland, which is one of the um, one of the cantons, but also probably the most well-known canton for Web3 type projects. A whole bunch of kind of large-scale protocol-based foundations are headquartered there. So we're kind of in the crypto valley, quote unquote, is what it's called. And really, the role of the foundation is to support the growth and development of the Near protocol with this piece of kind of open, permissionless, autonomous infrastructure and the ecosystem around it. And that type of support, it takes a whole bunch of different forms. There's obviously, there's financial support, right? So the foundation has a treasury. It allocates that in a whole bunch of different ways to try and support developers, projects, extending the core protocol technology, maintaining the core protocol technology. Um, but it also, does a whole bunch of other things as well. We try and play a coordination role in bootstrapping the ecosystem. There's a whole bunch of different projects, different organizations that kind of make up the data ecosystem as a whole.
Mhm.
And when you're operating in a decentralized environment where everything is not happening out of one place, that coordination piece and the support piece is vitally important, and that's one of the biggest things that we do. We also help to kind of explain and advocate for the technology, for the ecosystem, and for the importance of kind of open web technologies in general.
Mm.
That's one of the kind of core pieces of our mandate, and we can kind of dive into some of these specific bits a little bit later. So overall, that means that we're very busy, right? Because we have a lot of folks that a lot of different types of stakeholders. And a
Mhm.
lot of different folks that we are trying to coordinate. We're trying to bring into and support in the ecosystem, and just overall try and make the ecosystem as successful as possible.
Definitely. I was also gonna say, and smart coded. Do I know Chris? I don't know, Smart. I don't know if you know. You might. I hope you figured out that down there in the chat. You may know him, but it's Chris Donovan, COO at Near Foundation. So curious. I want to get into sort of your role of COO,
Mm.
what that role even means. But curious how you kind of fell into that job as well.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a lawyer by training, right, for my sins. I describe myself as a corporate lawyer in recovery, right, which I have been for a long time. So I started out my career like way back in the day in London at a large corporate law firm and trained and qualified. But knew like pretty early on that, and this is no offense to private practice lawyers, many of them love it and they're very good at it. It just wasn't for me. So I've
Mm.
had a bit of a weird and wonderful journey. I've been a founder myself, actually, of an applied AI business, way back in the day, and for supply chain logistics optimization. This is before AI was kind of cool and everyone was super
Mm.
excited about it. I had my own law firm in London for many years as well, and actually before I joined the foundation, I was a partner and the general counsel at Live Ventures, which is a Web3 VC and accelerator based in London, but actually with a global kind of team and also working with teams globally. And yeah, like I said, I'm a lawyer by training. I actually joined the foundation a couple of years ago as its general counsel. But over time, because of shifts internally and also because of my own, I guess, areas of focus and things that I like to do and that I guess I'm also good at, the kind of remit of my role grew and grew and grew until eventually we decided that it made sense for me to step into the COO role. And we can talk more
Mm.
specifically about what the day-to-day involves. But that's kind of super TLDR backstory.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the intro stories, only because probably one of the top questions I just see in general online is like, how do I get a job here? Like, how do I get hired? I think the majority of people asking that are probably more in the boat of like they want to become a mod and they're living in this fantasy world of 2021 where you can just join a animal picture project and boom, $6,000 a month, you're a Discord manager and you're going hard and that kind of thing. It's not exactly the same kind of environments, and plus there's different levels of jobs and commitments to the jobs, and some jobs require your full attention, like you were saying earlier, like traveling a lot. So an impact on the livelihood. So I'm curious on the role of COO at Near Foundation. So pretty significant role at a pretty significant place within the crypto sector. What does the day look like for you?
Good question. I just actually, before I answer that question, I wanted to come back to what you were just saying about how people get into the industry, because you're right. I think a lot of people wonder, and obviously it depends on aspirationally, like what it is you want to be doing and focusing on, like what skills you might have or skills that you're interested in acquiring, all of this kind of stuff. But one thing that I would say, which I think is a great strength of Web3 in general, is all of, or most of these pieces of technology, most of these ecosystems, they're open, they're permissionless, right? Anyone can come along and they can create a near wallet, right? You can start transacting, you can jump into Telegram groups, you can jump into Twitter spaces and conversations, right? And that sometimes is the best way, just to throw yourself into the deep end and just see what's going on, right? And learn how the technology works, learn how it can actually make a lot of things that you might do every day, sending money, transacting, hang out with friends, like it can actually really change and impact all of those different things. And as a sign, if anyone's interested in getting involved in the near ecosystem, just ping me directly. You can do it on Twitter or whatever works best for you, and I can plug you into the right people. And we always want to find excited, talented people to come into the ecosystem. So I just wanted to kind of do a little shout out there. I think Web3 is great because it is very accessible for a lot of different people, regardless of what your background is and regardless of what you like, what moves you, what you're passionate about. So COO. I mean it's busy. Right. So I think what I do along with Ilya is we basically, we operate the foundation day to day. So the foundation is a relatively big creature. We've got just under 50 people at the moment. And so we look after everything: legal, financial, budgeting, board meetings with the Near Foundation Council. And that's a group that kind of is the ultimate governing body of the foundation and stewarding the treasury and a few other things that we do. But we've also, of course, do a whole bunch of, like I said, kind of proactive outreach stuff in the ecosystem, managing community support, managing developer relationships, coordinating all of these different nodes and projects in the ecosystem that that fulfill different functions. And we can, if you're interested, or if your viewers are interested, we can kind of talk a bit more about the near ecosystem specifically. But so for me, because coordination and empowerment is a big part of what I do, I need to make sure that my team in the foundation is able to execute and be as efficient and effective as possible. So I spend a lot of time working directly with each of those individuals, understanding how what they're working on is going, how I can help them, what resources they might need, what support they might need, what's going well, what could be better, how can we connect all of these different pieces together into something that's coherent and effective. So I think internally that's a big part of what I do, and then we kind of scale that externally through the ecosystem, because it's not enough for us internally to coordinate well and to execute well. We have to coordinate and execute effectively with the hundreds of other partners, both inside and outside the ecosystem, that we also work with every day. So I guess it's kind of trying to sit across everything that's going on, keep an eye on everything that's going on, jumping in where there are issues or stuff is not working as well as it could, supporting folks to make sure that everything is as efficient and effective, and kind of trying to tie all the pieces together.
Yeah. One thing I learned joining Wolf this year was the team dynamic and working as part of a team. Not just, I'd worked with people in the past, but it was more like, hey, I need something done. Can you help me with this specific one task, like making a thumbnail or something like that? And so I never really had thought about, hey, I need to figure out how to speak to people in a way that's empowering, like you were saying, with your team, gets them excited. If there's something you have to like address that's like frictiony, how do you look at this problem with them, rather than like, dropping this problem in their lap and like pointing in their face kind of thing. And figuring out how to get things done and move things and move along. You're like, oh man, we've pinged them 5 times in the group chat. We're supposed to have this done 6 days ago. Like, where are they?
Right.
Those sorts of
But so
things.
you're right. I think it's about motivating people and also trying to do that positively, right? Because positive
Mm,
motivation is what's sustainable. Like there's lots of ways you can kind of negatively motivate. You can try and scare people, people
yeah.
feel under pressure and stuff, and that's not sustainable. It's not the right way to get people excited about wanting to do the work that you're trying to that you're trying to do. And I think that's one of the things that's tough about Web3 in general, right? Is it's an intense industry, right? It's always
Mm,
on. There's always things happening. There's always inbound, there's always external pressures. And I think
mm,
part of it is just helping and supporting the team in managing all of that pressure and expectation. And again, as you pointed out, the foundation, like many substantial critical foundations, is very much in the public eye. And a lot of what
mm,
we do is in public. It's getting kind of real-time feedback. You can't keep everyone happy all the time, although of course
yeah.
that's what we try and do. So that can be tough on the team. It puts people under a lot of pressure. And again, another part of what I do is to help support people and kind of give them the resources, but also just like the moral and personal support also that they might need. And I think one
Yeah.
of the interesting things about a Web3 foundation, because you asked, what does the foundation do? And it's this kind of generalized support coordination role, right? Is we're not like a traditional business necessarily where we would say, well, we are trying to grow our revenue. We're trying to sell more fridges or more TVs or whatever, right? And improve the bottom line and maybe make costs more efficient and move things more quickly through our supply chain. That's not really the paradigm that we can adopt, right? Because it's much more complicated for us. We're trying to bootstrap and support a decentralized ecosystem. So
Mm,
focus becomes a really big challenge because there's so much stuff we could be doing, right? But there's so many
yeah.
different things that we want to be doing to support the ecosystem and support so many of the great ideas. But the reality is, bandwidth, time, resources, they're all finite, they're all limited. And so
Yeah.
really what you need to try and figure out is what you prioritize and help the different teams prioritize that we think will move the needle the most and will bring about the best possible outcomes. Because like you're a Web3 guy, kid, how much noise there is out there, right? There's always
Yeah.
so much noise, so much excitement, very hard to keep up to speed with everything. And so
Mm,
I think that's one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle for us is navigating with intent kind of and with focus through all of the madness, which we love. Like the madness is one of the reasons why I love working in this
yeah.
industry. It's different every single day. But it's definitely like it's an acquired and learned skill to
Yeah.
navigate through.
Definitely. Yeah. You said a bunch of great things there that definitely ring through in my head. See, Devashish from LinkedIn, probably one of our couple of viewers from LinkedIn. I need to probably spend more time on LinkedIn, to be honest. Do you have any thoughts on like those other social medias like a LinkedIn? Actually, do you use it? Is this like, what is there like? I feel like there's like a secret little tab for COOs and CMOs on LinkedIn.
I mean, look, I don't want to speak. I think all like a lot of the social media platforms, they have their purpose and their role, right? And I think LinkedIn's definitely more institutionalized. And for some of
Mm,
the conversations and partners that we have, definitely it makes more sense if we're talking to like big financial institutions, maybe sometimes government folks, for example, as well. That tends to be the quote unquote platform of choice. I think
mm,
the beating heart and soul from a social media perspective of Web3, of course, is Twitter/X, and that's where most of us spend most of our time. Which was actually a little bit of an adjustment for me. As a side note, I was never a big social media user in my previous life. Like certainly as a kind of corporate lawyer slash
yeah.
founder, I didn't really spend that much time living on social media. But I think if you're in Web3 and deeply in Web3, you kind of have to be because it's where most of the information and kind of updates and stuff is actually happening in real time. And if you're not, then it's difficult to kind of stay on top of things. But like I said, I think LinkedIn definitely has its place, and we do use it a fair bit, but maybe for not as not as kind of pure Web3 activities, I guess you'd call
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on a little bit before I steered us to a left, talking about LinkedIn. We were talking about some of the various things you're trying to pull together, as it is with the COO role. Talk to us a little bit about like the uniqueness that you've noticed while working in Near Protocol. Also, maybe was there anything specific about Near that called out? I think you had mentioned AI earlier, so I figured that was probably the original interest and inception point. But yeah, what is that unique win factor you think that you like about Near Protocol? And then,
Mm.
what was it that kind of initially drew you in, I guess?
Yeah, sure, sure. Well, I might take the second part of the question first as a naughty interviewee. So, I I've always been a fan of Nia, but I think of any project which takes has taken the time to really try and build best in class technology, right? And that's
Mhm.
unequivocally what Ilya and Alex, who were the two co-founders of the protocol, did.
Mhm.
And so I don't know for your viewers slash listeners if they know the kind of backstory to Nia. So I might just, if you'll
Yeah,
indulge me, I
please,
might run us
please.
through it because I think it's good context. So
Yeah.
actually, Nia was started out originally as an AI project, right? And Ilya Polasukin, who's one of the co-founders, he's a kind of big brain in the AI space because he's one of the co-authors of "Attention Is All You Need." This is the paper that pioneered Transformers. Transformers power all of the large language models. It's the T in ChatGPT, right? So Ilya is one of the people that invented this technology. And actually, after he did that, whilst he was working at Google and they published this paper, he left to start an AI project because he believed that this technology was kind of at an inflection point, and he wanted, with Alex Skidmore, his co-founder, they wanted to start building AI models that could help people code. And they realized as they were going on that founder journey that one of the things they needed to do is to be able to pay a bunch of researchers and participants all around the world. And actually, at that time, it's very, very hard to do that. And they thought, well, hang on, like blockchain theoretically should be really good for this, right? Let's have a look at what's in market and if we can use one of these pieces of infrastructure to do what we need to do. And actually, they decided, looking at that time, that the stuff that existed that was kind of state of the art was not good enough for what they wanted to do. Like there wasn't a piece of blockchain infrastructure that was scalable enough, that was cheap enough, that was easy enough to use, that meant they could actually do what they needed to do from a business perspective. So being, the kind of gigabrains that they were like, you know what, we're going to just build our own blockchain. We're going to build one that actually ticks all of those boxes and does all of the things that people need to be able to do at scale. And as part of that process, they did a bunch of like whiteboarding sessions and kind of information sharing with all of the other big projects of the day, the other kind of big quote unquote layer ones. And they kind of picked all of the best bits of them and brought them together into the near protocol, which is a sharded layer one blockchain at its heart, but there's got a bunch of other things also, and features which I'll come back to in a second, in order for them to be able to do this right. And so that's one of the reasons why I was so interested in getting into the ecosystem is because the technology is really amazing, right? And right now, Nia has what is effectively the Ethereum 2.0 roadmap, like live and functioning right now, right? So it has it's a fully sharded blockchain. It has 6 shards running right now. It is the most scalable form of layer one blockchain kind of implementation out there in the market. We've got some of the highest levels of monthly active users. We have some of the biggest dApps in Web3 running on the Near protocol as well. And so I think that just as a base level is testament to kind of how well Alex and Ilya did in designing the technology, making the developer experience and developer tools like really easy to use, and attracting some amazing projects and founders and builders to do it. So it made it quite an easy decision. But of course, also I think Ilya himself, who and he and I work very closely together, obviously, is just he's a brilliant guy, very, very smart, but also uniquely positioned with his background where he deeply understands Web3, but he also, of course, is a a kind of world eminent expert in AI as well. And what we have been doing in the last sort of 6 to 12 months is, I guess, finishing off that circular journey that he was on originally, where he wanted it to be an AI project. He kind of took a detour for a few years to build this best-in-class blockchain protocol, and now we're
Casual
going
side
back
notes.
to yeah, exactly, casual as you do. You just go and build like one of the most successful pieces of blockchain infrastructure ever, and then we're back now trying to integrate AI and these kind of amazing Web3 kind of tech stacks into unified experiences for people, and that's really what we're doing today, right? And I think what is really, I guess, special about the Near ecosystem at the moment, at least from our perspective, is that we have this best-in-class layer one protocol at its heart, right? But we also have these two other, I guess, technological pillars, you could call them, which extend the protocol and what it's capable of doing in a way that we think is really quite magical and quite unique. So, in addition to the core layer one, we have this technology stack called chain signatures, and what this enables you to do is effectively extend the near account, which is just like your wallet, right, to any piece of blockchain infrastructure out there right now. So if you want to manage and transact in Bitcoin, Polkadot, Solana, whatever, you can do it all from a near account. And we think that that technology is fundamentally what is needed in Web3, like putting aside the AI piece for a moment, because as you know, folks will know, the current Web3 landscape is enormously fragmented. You know, there's hundreds of different layer ones and layer twos and layer threes, and actually thousands really. And if you've ever had much experience, you know, folks that are watching or listening, to actually trying to do stuff in Web3, it's really hard at the moment because you need to have different wallets for each piece of blockchain infrastructure you want to use. You need to have different seed phrases. You need to know what a bridge is. You need to know how to bridge stuff. You need to know how to pay gas and all of this kind of stuff. And for most people, right, that we're trying to attract into Web3, they're like, no, man, I'm good. I'm going to stick with my Gmail and my Amazon and my, you know, and my like whatever, a Monzo account, right? That like that's good enough for me because the user experience is easy for me to understand and to use. And so as long as we stay fragmented like that, we will never get like billions of people using this technology because it's just too hard for them to use. And an acid test that I always say to people is, could my grandmother, who actually only recently passed away, but she got to 101, and she was very kind of very cogent, we're very lucky, like lived an amazing life, and was also really curious about technology. And she'd always be trying, like she was always, you know, she'd be emailing me, she'd be like telegramming me and stuff, like really amazing, right? But it'd be like, could my grandmother successfully and easily navigate Web3? And the answer is absolutely not right now. And until the answer to that question is yes, we're not going to get kind of large scale global adoption of the technology. So that's one of the other pieces, right? This kind of chain signatures stack. And we think that that will abstract away a lot of that complexity, both for users, where you can just have single, unified, slick user experiences, regardless of what you're trying to do. And then for developers, you don't need to pick and choose. Well, I want to be in Solana because of the liquidity available. I want to be over in Near because of the tech, the quality developer tooling. I want to be, I don't know, in Ethereum because I'm an Ethereum aligned person or whatever. You shouldn't have to make those compromises, right? You should just build with the best tools in the best place for the job that you're trying to do. And that's what this technology allows people to do. So we're very excited about that. But then I think in addition, the other piece of the puzzle, particularly when I talked about user experiences, is on the AI side, right? So we also have in the ecosystem, thanks to Ilya and others, a whole bunch of features, projects, and resources that allow for the building and the scaling of what we're calling user-owned AI. So this is kind of taking the principles of Web3, which are all about self-sovereignty, right? Controlling your data, controlling your assets, actually owning the things that you transact with and use every single day in your digital lives. And you don't right now in the kind of Web2 paradigm, and we can come back to that in a second, extending those principles to AI, because we believe that AI is the most transformative technology, period, right, that humanity has ever kind of dabbled with and discovered. And right now, the most successful AI companies are the likes of OpenAI, right? And these companies, I mean, and OpenAI is a great example, actually. It started out as a nonprofit, saying like, we're not here to make money. We're here just to release amazing technology to the world. And of course, they realized that over time, like, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in this podcast, so I won't. But you know, they said, oh no, it costs a fortune to develop this stuff. It's like, where are we going to get the money? Oh, I know. We'll go to someone like a Microsoft. Hey guys, give us billions of dollars. And they're like, okay, well, we will, but we expect to get something in return. We're not just going to give it to you out of the goodness of our heart. And so over time, OpenAI was transitioning more and more from this not-for-profit open organization to a closed for-profit organization. And that in its most recent funding round, it's explicitly shifted to a for-profit closed model, right? And they're in the process of figuring all of that out right now. And that shows you that the incentive paradigms that you have that dominate Web2, which is like, how do I make money? Oh, I capture attention and I use people's information, their data to capture attention as effectively as possible, which generates me more profit, which means I'm even better at capturing attention, profit, attention, profit, attention. And from an outcomes perspective, that's not good for you and me, right? We're not getting remunerated when people use our information, you know, as part of that process. We don't actually own the information and the data and the assets that we're generating for these big models. Like, for example, whenever OpenAI runs a query over one of its models, which probably has my information in it, right? Because they've scraped the entire internet. I don't even know, right? I don't even know what information is in there. I don't know what information they're using about me, and I'm certainly not getting paid for it, right? Even though it's my information and it's valuable. I also don't even know, like, to be honest, like which model they're running. Like, I go to ChatGPT and it says, "Cool, it's GPT-4 or whatever." I can't validate that. I just have to trust them that actually what they're spitting out to me is in fact GPT-4 and it is actually the valid query. And so we
Mhm.
think that's not the right way for AI to be scaled globally, right? We think it needs to be, you need to flip that model on its head. You need to empower the users. We should be able to know when our information is in these models. We should be able to know how these models have been trained. We should be able to interrogate the outputs of these models. And most importantly of all, these models should be optimized for good outcomes for us, not for making money for some massive corporation somewhere, but actually to protect our own interests about our data, our assets, and actually the control that we have over our digital lives. So we have another kind of tech stack that enables all of that. We also have a kind of AI R&D lab that is developing and taking products to market using that tech stack called Near AI. And actually, Alex Skidinov, who had left the Near ecosystem to go and work at OpenAI, has come back to lead that kind of R&D effort this year as well, which we're super excited about. So we definitely feel like a lot of pieces for this vision of the user-owned internet are falling into place. And AI is such an important piece because it's a scaling, it's a massive accelerator on scaling, right? Because things happen so fast now. But it's
Yeah.
also what will help to create those user experiences on the front end that will enable us to compete with existing Web2 offerings. And that's where we've been falling short, like I mentioned, on the kind of the chain signatures side. So I'll stop
Yeah.
there because I know I just covered a lot of ground. So
No, well, you hit on a bunch of good points here, and actually one of them sort of answers this question I saw earlier that I wasn't going to answer, but it's like kind of in line with it was from A to B. How do I see price action for, and we're not going to get into the nitty gritty there, but for me it was always just like a year and a half ago or something when I first had heard of Near. I
mm,
was, or what month is it? It's October, so it would have been like just about a year ago actually.
mm,
And I had hit up Noah asking him just about Nico, which is the company he worked on, which is a brand on Near. And then he kind of just showed it to me a little bit. And I remember in the very beginning, I was like, if this company, if this blockchain ever makes a pivot toward AI, they already are the number one coin in the AI category on CoinMarketCap, which is where everyone goes. There's so many of these factors that just lead me, just from an investing perspective. I was like, the chart looks okay here actually, and that was like the original thing that piqued my interest. And then I did the real deep dive and was like, oh wow, yeah, if they ever pivot to AI, it's going to be good. But then so a little bit earlier this year, Chain Signatures comes out. Wasn't I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really know enough until I went to go prep for a video. And as I was making the video, I was like, whoa, this is kind of like groundbreaking across crypto. And then I started to hear it in other circles, not just in your protocol. And I was like, oh, wait, I think this did make some ripples. This is actually a really cool concept to be able to not be limited to your Near wallet. When you've got your Near account open, you can go and engage with the rest of the entire world of Web3 from one
mm.
spot. I was like, oh, so they're solving problems for, especially for a little bit into the future. But they're cool to do that and not have to hop on every single trend. They seem to just build out and grind it out and get things done. And so that was one thing that initially piqued my interest there. But
Yeah.
Chain's interest is huge, dude. I
I mean,
would
I
say
think
that's
it's
that and AI.
yeah, it is. But I think you're right that you know it's also a lot to talk about. What I just covered, and it took me 5 minutes to kind of
Yeah.
run through it in detail. It's difficult to deduce that into kind of simple, clear marketing and positioning materials, right? Which again is one of the things
Mm,
that we are responsible for doing. And I think it's taken us, like, I'm very happy to kind of hold up my hand and say this, it's taken us quite a bit of time to figure out the best way to talk about putting all of these different pieces together in a way that is easy for folks to understand, right? Because you're right, a lot of people, they're like, oh, Near is this, or like, or is it that, or is it, and again, I don't always agree to like to be reductive, because I think the beauty of Near, and indeed many ecosystems, is that they're way more than the sum of their parts, but they're also a lot more than just one particular bit of technology stack that might exist. But you're right. I think chain signatures is a very powerful technology, and it's part of this broader movement that we help start called chain abstraction, which is like, let's abstract away complexity.
yeah.
Let's make it easy for people to do stuff in Web3. But more importantly, actually, because this is another thing that people often ask me about. Like, well, hang on, if we're connecting all these blockchains together, then what does that mean for one ecosystem versus another ecosystem. People are often very passionate about ecosystems that they
Yeah.
happen to be involved with, right? And my answer is that we should think about different ecosystems not as competitors, right? We're not competing against each other. If you really think about medium to long term, what we're actually trying to do is build an industry together, right? And right now, there's the pie, the industry that we managed to build. Hey, it's big and we've made amazing progress. But in terms of what it could be, like imagine if the whole internet is captured by these technologies. That's a really big pie. And rather than fighting over the tiny slice of pie that we've got now, we should be all focusing on trying to grow the pie as big as possible. And it's technologies
Mm.
like these which enable us to do it. And so we should think about folks working super hard in other ecosystems, doing some really great stuff as like potential partners and peers, not as competitors.
Yeah, definitely agree there. One thing that came to mind was, before I worked in the industry, and I was just more of a participant and making videos.
Mm.
Now I work a bit more deeply into the industry. I've seen sort of like somewhere someone has to put in the work, right? Like for blockchain to keep making these big updates, like someone out there is grinding away on the computer and putting out new code and put out new proposals and whatnot. Like these things have to happen. It's I think in the crypto world, especially on X, the feed is just filled up with stories of drama, of a hack here, of whoever who scams someone here. Like that's the majority of what people are seeing on day to day. And they almost just like the announcements sort of just come as if they're on like a conveyor belt. And people are like, oh, like nice one, like oh, nice one, oh, nice one. But if these things aren't happening, like we don't actually get anywhere. So with Near, I really just liked. I was like, it seems like they've got a good bit of funding. It seems like they've got the right people on the team, some real giga brains at the core, who are gonna be heading a lot of these ideas. I assume. It seems to me that these people are looking to like solve some problems, which is nice, not just stay on top of X. And I know that can come with its drawbacks because you'll solve all the problems, but then people aren't talking about you on every single YouTube channel kind of thing. And so there's like the other end of that, which is like, okay, now we've done all these great things, but now we need to get the word out. And so then this year, Ilya, the CEO of Near Foundation, comes in and just goes all in on just chain abstraction and going on every single podcast imaginable. He really got the word out there. And so it's been a pretty nicely combined effort, I would say, in 2024, like a really good building block for the next few years. Like, what do you think is coming for the next few years of Near? Is marketing going to be a big lean? Like, are we going to switch around some stuff? Like, do you have any insights on that side of things?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I'm always most excited about what's happening kind of on the technical and the product side, like what's
Mm.
actually possible with the technology. And I think, like I said, when you combine the different kind of pillars of technology in the ecosystem, you get some pretty amazing outcomes from like a user experience perspective. So I think
Mm.
definitely we've got a conference that we are the primary sponsors of called Redacted that's coming up in November. I think you're going to be
I'll
there,
be
Cade.
there.
Yeah, we
I'll
have shout
definitely be
out.
there.
I'll circulate the where you can go to register if you're interested. So it's in Bangkok, 9th to 11th of November. So just before DevCon, if you're going to DevCon, you should come and see us as well. We've got a whole bunch of amazing content, a lot of product announcements, for example, a lot of different. Kind of unveilings that will help folks really dig their teeth into what it is that we think that this kind of combination of technology can enable. So I think super short term, I'm very excited about that, and the team's working incredibly hard to get Redacted, to be like an amazing success. I'm sure that it will be. But more broadly, I think there's a few pieces, right? I think one piece is, to your point, we have a lot of amazing technology in the ecosystem, and just the question is how we talk about it in the most effective way and
Yeah.
we get as many people as possible excited about it. And I think we're getting more and more people excited about it, which is great, but you always can always get more excitement, more eyeballs on what we're doing because we think that it's really important.
Mm.
So I think that's one piece. I think another is, to your point, on the product side, we've done a lot of foundational work. And that's the hard yards where it can be difficult, I guess, externally to see the progress. To your point, like people are like, well, where's the next announcement? Where's the next this?
Right.
Where's the next that? Actually, someone's just got to sit down and code this stuff, or they've got to run audits. They've got to put it through testnet. They've got to do all of the hard yards, which maybe doesn't
Mm.
always feel or look very glamorous, but is so important. And we're very lucky. in the ecosystem to have, like a really incredible amount of particularly technical talent. Like, there's just a lot
Yeah.
of really smart people, gigabrain people that are working on some really, really exciting stuff. So I think it's 2024 has been the year of laying a lot of important foundations and beginning to tie all these pieces together. And I think we believe that 2025 is going to be an enormously exciting year because, a lot of these things will be coming to market. We are hoping to generate more excitement and kind of a more synthesized and straightforward way of talking about what we're doing.
Mm.
And also, when AI is in the mix, really anything is possible, right? This, like I said, the speed of change, the speed of development is really quite astonishing. So I
Mm.
think there's going to be a lot of great stuff happening in 2025.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And just in general, the crypto markets, I feel generally blessed that we are going through this paradigm shift. It feels like of massive just cultural shift. It's got its pullbacks and it's got its cons for sure, but it's pretty interesting kind of observing things that are happening. And one thing that's pretty fascinating to me is I'll be honed in on one side of the market and we don't even realize that there's so many sectors to this Web3 world. There's people all the way over there doing things I haven't seen or heard of yet, not even one time ever. And this is literally like their career. They're like a full-time insert job that I haven't heard of, and they're doing all these things. And so the Web3 world for me is fascinating. It was the world of innovation when I first got in. That's why I wanted to work in a professional setting. So I always had high quality cameras. I would do like the edits. I would do just like I figured if I can work in the industry in innovation, but I'm not a coder, then I have to make myself a value add in some capacity. So I just said, okay, well, I love content, so I'll figure out what I can do in a content aspect and try and be as professional as I can. Get the attention of the COOs, the CEOs, like the people working in the industry, and just do educational content and podcasts. That's kind of where I was at with it when I first got into the industry. And a few years ago, when I was I've always been wanting to do YouTube. But I don't think I probably could have predicted anything remotely close to this. I'm curious, in your high school, college years, you said you were a lawyer. So maybe when you were studying for the bar, did you ever think you'd be in this kind of scenario talking about / defending and on the front lines for something called blockchain? Or was this all in the last few years kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, so yes, I mean, I was a lawyer by training, but I didn't even study law in the first instance at university,
Mm,
right? I studied something called natural sciences. So I was a scientist by background, and specifically neuroscience and how you can model human decision making and rationality with machine learning and AI models, right? So weirdly for me as well, it's kind of a little bit like coming home with what we're working on at the moment, because academically that's where I sort of cut my teeth.
mm,
But I mean, at that time, and this was a while ago, and I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to show everyone how old I am, but it was a while ago, and it was definitely before it was before blockchain was on the scene, before Bitcoin, for example, even
mm,
existed, and certainly before there'd been all of this incredible progress on the AI front as well. So no, definitely not at all what I expected. I mean, at one point I thought I'd be working in a lab doing research, right, on
wow,
the neuroscience side, and which didn't end up being the case. And then I thought, well, I'll be a corporate lawyer working at a law firm, which also ended up not being the case. And I've been lucky enough to have a weird and wonderful career where I've been able to just follow the things that interest me and that I'm excited about. And with Web3 specifically, right, I mentioned to you that I set up my own law firm in London, and I was working with early stage projects and founders building those projects, specifically technology projects, off the back of my own kind of founder journey, and also with some investors and VCs and stuff that were wanting to get exposure to them. And I was doing all of the usual kind of legal stuff with company setup, with taking on investment, drafting shareholders agreements, IP, personnel, hiring and firing of folks, that kind of stuff. And one of my oldest clients actually came to me and he was like, "Listen, this was in 2015. He was like, "Hey, Chris, listen." And this guy ran a kind of B2B payment processing platform for e-commerce, right? Like very, very Web2 payment and stuff. And he was like, "Look, I want to accept payment in this thing called Bitcoin. Like, can I do that, Chris? Like, is that legal, or am I going to go to jail?" And I was like, "Look, I've heard of Bitcoin, but I don't know much about it. But I'm happy to go off and do some research, and I'll come back in a couple of weeks, and I'll give you some thoughts and some perspective." And that was really how
wow,
I was aware of it, and I hadn't had any reason really to do a kind of deep dive into it. And when I did, it really blew me away. I think
wow,
particularly for the reasons that I mentioned around, I think we need a new paradigm in how we are living our online, like our digital lives. I fundamentally believe that around things like privacy, around our dignity, to be honest,
Mm.
and empowering us to have more control and more ability to influence, like how all of these different experiences are being served up to us, how we're getting remunerated for it, how we're sharing our information. All of this type of stuff is really important to me. And I think that the technology, the beautiful thing about this technology is that we actually have the tools to do it, to build a better internet, to do these things better with better outcomes for you and me and all of the other individuals that are using this technology. Um, and so that kind of it bit, I got bitten by the bug. I started doing more and more Web3 work, and until that's all that I wanted to do, right? And again,
Mm.
as a lawyer, there weren't, and this was back in 2016, 2017, there weren't that many folks who were working in like exclusively thinking about Web3 stuff every single day. And if you're passionate about something and you're lucky enough to be kind of right place, right time, because the industry was really starting to accelerate and grow, and there's been a lot of, unfortunately, regulatory uncertainty and legal questions around a lot of this stuff. It just meant I was fortunate to kind of be, yeah, like I said, right place, right time, but definitely not at all what I was expecting. I mean, and sometimes, I'm on the phone and my wife is like, I don't understand what you do. Like, I don't even understand like half of the words that you're using. You're talking about like intent relays and RPC nodes and meme coins and all that. And it's like, well, what even is this job that you do, Chris? Like, I don't understand. So no, definitely not what I was expecting. But I think that's a good thing. I think unpredictability and novelty are some of the things that keep us interested and motivated. And I think the best thing about what I get to do every day, and I think what many people who work in Web3 get to do is I learn something new every single day easily, multiple new things usually, right? And that's scary too, because there's a lot of stuff that
Right.
I don't know as much about as I would like, but it's also a privilege that you get to do a job where you get to learn new stuff every
Yeah.
single day. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Were you like this also in the high school days? Were you generally driven and looking to learn and this type of attitude, or were you a bit of a troublemaker?
No, I was a bit of a goody two shoes too. I worked very
Mm.
hard. I was very buttoned up. If I could go back to my like 15-year-old self, I'd be, I think I'd say something like, dude, just like take a breath, relax, enjoy it
Mm.
more. Um, and I know, I think you're right. Like some people, I don't know, they ebb and flow through kind of how they think about life and what's important to them. And I've just always been a very driven person, but I
Yeah.
think it's about finding the things that you're passionate about to devote your drive to, right? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't passionate about corporate law, being very blunt about it, right? It
Mm.
was just not something that I wanted to get out of bed in the morning to do. But I am passionate about this stuff, and that just means that, people like to say, well, ideally your job isn't work, right? It doesn't feel like work to you. And I think that's and again, like Web3 is maybe not going to be that for everyone too, right? Because there's a lot of crazy stuff about it. But for me,
Yeah,
it is, and I'm very lucky that that's the case.
definitely. I wanted to double click on something you said
Mm.
about when the guy approached you to accept. Man, I'm just so upset that someone didn't come to me in those years and pitch me Bitcoin in a way that was. I don't think I would have heard it, but like I just remember in 2017, the first time I heard it. I was a sophomore in college, I think 2017, and it was public speaking class, and the sketchiest kid in class stands up, gives the speech. He's in like oversized slacks. He's got like a black hoodie on. He's a little bit, goth emo type. And I was like, dude, what Bitcoin? Like this guy looks like exactly what I would think a Bitcoin person looks like. And that was the only thing I had. I just had no context. I think I heard secret passphrase, and I was like, oh, that sounds like I don't know. I don't like the sound of that. It sounds ominous.
Yeah.
And I had multiple people who were, doing things and using Bitcoin. I just never really poked into it. So you did do the research because quite literally a client asked you, I need some help. What was it about Bitcoin that initially spiked your interest and then sends you down this road of Web3?
Yeah. Well, I think it feels almost magic, right? It's simple. Like the concept is simple, but it's enormously powerful. The idea that we can
Mhm.
have a system that can replace existing monetary systems that need intermediaries, that need centralized controlling authorities, that are prone to abuse and generate kind of inequitable outcomes. You can replace all of this with a relatively small amount of code is kind of mind-blowing to me. I was like, wow, this is enormously powerful. And, we talked earlier about the kind of incentive framework that's the dominant incentive framework, which is profit driven, right? And the it's not even the I don't know, like the big tech companies are kind of quote unquote evil, or they have this awful agenda. That's the paradigm that they're in, right? They're being asked to make money for their shareholders, and so they're going to get really good at doing that. Like, they're not being asked to optimize for like socially good outcomes, or for the integrity of content on their platforms, or for I don't know, for improving wealth inequality or improving educational outcomes. Like, these are just not things that are on the agenda, like for most modern technology companies, right? Like, they exist exclusively to make money for their shareholders, right? So I think that that is a fundamental problem, and you can look at the financial system and see similar features where, again, the folks that are dominant, the types of organizations that are dominant in the financial systems are for-profit organizations. They are trying to make as much money as possible. They are not trying to build fair or equitable financial systems, right, or get good financial outcomes for individuals. And so the technology, I saw what the technology could do, and look, these are very lofty promises, right? And I think it's fair to say that as an industry, we haven't necessarily delivered on a lot of those promises, right? And I also think it's kind of fascinating because a lot of folks, like, they would agree. Most people would be like, yeah, privacy is important, obviously, or being able to actually own the stuff that I use in my digital life every day. That's also really important. But the reality is that when you're trying to get people to change the status quo, like you talked about, like secret phrases and all this kind of stuff, people are like, no, man, like I'm good with my iPhone and my Gmail and my Amazon and my delivery, because like I press 2 buttons and anything that I want in the entire world arrives at my doorstep in like 1 hour or whatever. That's what they want. They want that experience, and values enough for most people. For some people who are, who really, for whom those things are like vitally important, it is enough. But for most people going about their day, it's not enough on its own to motivate people to want to change how they do everyday stuff. And that's where the user experience and the like meeting these Web2 giants, you kind of at their own game, like being as good as them or even better, ideally from a user experience perspective, is what we need to do. And then that's how you can replace the currently dominant infrastructure with this infrastructure that does actually like inherently bring about better outcomes. That's one of the ways that we can do it.
Definitely. Yeah, you brought up a bunch of good points there. I was also going to say, for anyone who's listening or watching right now on X, YouTube, or LinkedIn, or wherever you're at, we appreciate you a ton for listening in. And also, if you want to give Chris a follow and check out him or Near Foundation, they're both pinned in the description on YouTube. They're in the description, so just click down there and you can find them. If they're on X, they should be in the title. You should be able to just click it into the title, and they're tagged. So definitely give them a follow. And if you have any questions or you want to get started with Redacted, I believe the Redacted conference registration ends today, if I'm not mistaken. If today's the 31st, right. It is.
That's right.
Yeah. So Halloween, get your registration if you're going to be even kind of close to Bangkok in about a week. Definitely would love to see you out there. I know there's a lot of people talking about. I don't think the people outside of Near are calling it DEF CON, of course. So a lot of people I know are going to DEF CON, or they're excited about DEF CON. So I just know that area in general for those couple of weeks is going to be a lot of crypto, a lot of Web3, a lot of Bitcoin. So I just figure it's a great opportunity. One thing I always forget, and I always think about it after the conferences, which is so like not helpful. But I'll always be like, man, I was just at a place where every single person knows what Bitcoin is. Like I could just walk up to any person and ask them a handful of questions, something to do with like, how'd you get into crypto? And I would get a guaranteed, well, not guaranteed. Sometimes maybe they're a +1, but most of the time they're going to have an intro story to Web3, and then boom, you've got an icebreaker. That's generally never, ever going to be the case. You walk into a Starbucks, the chance of you asking some random person that you want to talk to about something that you could fall into natural conversation with, you're going to strike out. But at a crypto event, dude, every single person there wants to talk about crypto or Bitcoin or whatever it is. So anyways, I have this question here. We still got a few minutes left. And by the way, if you're enjoying the stream, please repost it or share it on any platform or wherever you're at. All the engagement helps. So for the average person, when they're kind of scanning the different blockchains, they're looking around at things they want to dive into. Either they're looking to get involved in the ecosystem or they're trying to work, or maybe they just want to find a new asset, whatever. What's something that the average person you think might overlook? Something about Near Protocol that we know, that you know specifically because you're down there in the trenches with us. What's something that you think someone might overlook if they're not as deep in the game?
That's a great question. I mean, great question. I think there are so many, so many different aspects, and I think a lot of stuff I've already covered. Right? I guess it's the richness of what the protocol is capable of. It's not quote unquote just another layer one, but I think maybe for the uninitiated, we can call them that. I think one of the things that is not as widely known as it should be about Near is that actually it is a best in class layer one. Like, it is the best, in our opinion, layer one blockchain solution. It is the most scalable. It has the highest success rate, like SLA success rate, of any blockchain, right? So 99.99999% of transactions complete. I think folks sometimes forget that, right? Because there's so many other things going on. But I mean, I mentioned that earlier, they built a best in class, really quite incredible piece of technology. And if you're wanting to find out more about it, that's a great place to start, right? Because that's what powers everything.
Yeah, definitely. That's a pretty good response. I would, if I was to think of something, it would probably be something along those lines. Actually, yeah, that was well put. Okay, we got a few last questions, and I have a couple fun rapid fire Q&A that you don't have to answer them, but I think it'd be kind of funny.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Let's see.
They're no harm. So anyway,
I'm game. Let's see what we can do.
All right. Yeah, I like these. Yeah, we'll go with these last two questions, and we'll hit that rapid fire Q&A. Okay. Well, what would you like to see more of in the Web3 world, or and you can go broad with this, or you can zoom in on Near Protocol's ecosystem. What would you like to see more of?
So I think in Web3 in general, I guess like good products, more good products. We have lots of amazing infrastructure. We don't have enough incredible user experiences that really showcase what the technology is capable of. And the more we can have of those, the more folks we can onboard, the more we can get people to get it. Like things that someone can pick up and use and be like, like an aha kind of moment. I get it. I get what all of the fuss is about. We don't have enough of that. And I think that's kind of collectively as an industry our fault, that we've been very focused on building infrastructure. And also I think when it comes to dominant narratives and what becomes popular in the industry as well, it tends to not be necessarily as substantively kind of product based as we would like. It tends to be more built around hype and around, kind of casino type financial opportunities. And again, that is a use case for the technology, and that's fine, and everything has its place. But I think I'd love to see more great product teams building great products. Easy one to answer there.
Easy stuff. Love
what
it.
about you? Okay, what would you like to see more of?
Well, that I agree. I definitely agree there on more products. Otherwise, what's tough for me is I don't know exactly how the rise for Solana came about. I just know that the main thing I pulled from the Solana takeover, I guess, of 2023 and 4 was that it's possible that Ethereum can just be knocked off their horse and their throne this quickly and go from pretty much the only relevant side chain. Solana was like a joke for so many years. Like I even made guilty of myself saying this is the poor person blockchain. This is where people go to make $8 of profit and celebrate about it. Like I used to say all those things before I knew anything. And then and maybe it was true even at one point, even self-proclaimed by some. But then we had just all of a sudden, it felt like overnight, realistically within a few months, some of the top influencers in all of crypto start just talking about their Solana bags, and the Solana NFTs are coming in. And I was like, oh, wait, okay, so it's possible for an L1 to rise in the ranks across crypto and can be adopted. They're doing a great job. They've got a couple, probably 2 to 4 like standout brands on Solana that I noticed, like Magic Eden, like Phantom Wallet, like a few of those kind of brands. And I was like, okay, so you get a few of those people, Frank D. Gods, a couple influencer people who are making waves, doing some crazy stuff, and then just recognizable, well-known brands seem to kind of all contribute to this thing. And the main thing was I was like, okay, it's possible. So with Near, I was thinking, okay, they're building towards the future. There's a bunch of things that are cool that are needed that one day will be recognized and probably recognized on crypto Twitter. And when that happens, then hopefully we see that volume come into the ecosystem. And at that point, everything has to be built. And it kind of goes to your point, the products have to be there, ready to go. Almost like a roller coaster, like arriving with all the empty seats. Like they need to be there, ready to go when the masses come. So right now, I guess I'm okay with it because like we're seeing the brands and some of the meme coins building and just trying to just keep the wheels moving while volume and the users just aren't there yet, like we're seeing in some of the super talked about cryptos. So for me, it's more of like a waiting game. Like I just have had this belief for a year now that when the AI move comes, we just will see that influx of new people. And so, man, yeah, it's a little bit tough question to answer because I feel like my real answer would come once I've seen us Battleground tested with however many thousands of users or millions of users.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, and then I got what does Near Protocol have coming up? And you kind of hit on this a little bit. What does Near Protocol have coming up that you're looking forward to on a personal level or professional level? And then we'll jump into a couple of rapid fire Q&As.
Sure. I mean, I think on the chain signatures side, we've got a bunch of DeFi launches of kind of new primitives and protocols that are truly cross-chain. So, for example, there's this one of the teams in the ecosystem is working on this thing called the Omni token standard, which basically means you can launch a token using this Near tech stack, and it instantly launches on every single piece of blockchain infrastructure in existence, right? Which is kind of a mind-blowing thought, and we're super excited about it. That's just one example. And then on the user-owned AI side, we have a bunch of cool product announcements coming up that I think is, like I said, it's kind of a lot of them are combining the Web3 technology with this AI technology to create magical experiences for people. And I think, yeah, super excited about those as well.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, hopefully some of those new products are AI. And that way we at least get to double click on the AI factor of things and brag.
They absolutely are. They absolutely
are.
Let's
go. Okay, let's jump into some rapid fire Q&A, Near Protocol edition,
Okay.
and a couple of just normal broad.
Let's do it.
Do you have a daily wallet that you use? Do you prefer like a hot wallet or a Meteor wallet over another one that you use on a daily?
Oh, I don't. I mean, I like all of the wallets that are in our ecosystem, right? I don't want to pick and choose favorites, but seriously, I actually use all of them. I've got a hot wallet. I've got a Meteor wallet. I think they're all great.
Very nice, very nice. And then, do you have a favorite? It might just be a personal question. Do you have a favorite meme brand or a particular PFP profile picture collection that comes to mind at all?
Oh, I mean, again, I like a lot of them, and there are some great ones in Near, and I don't want to play favorites because I think there are a lot of different ones that are great. So I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
Plead the fifth, but if you go on X, you can find his account and you can find his real answer on his profile picture. Love it. Okay, a couple of last ones. Do you have any tattoos?
No, I do not, and I'm not sure my wife would be happy if I. After this current trip, turned up with one, but I'd be open to it.
Thinking Near tattoo on the forehead or something, just something casual.
Yeah, well, I could get the the Near Infinity thing on my forehead. I'm sure my wife wouldn't mind that. Take one for the team.
And then, do you have any favorite current TV shows or movies that you're watching that you're really liking?
Oh yeah, that's a great one. I'm watching Disclaimer at the moment on Apple TV, which is an Alfonso Cuarón one, which is quite interesting. I love film and television just in general as a side note. I rewatched the other day There Will Be Blood, one of the greatest films, Paul Thomas Anderson, Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't know if you've watched it. You should. Really? If you haven't, it's amazing. It's like a modern tragedy. Definitely worth checking out. What else have I watched something like a Western recently with Viggo Mortensen called The Dead Don't Hurt, which he starred in and directed, which I have a lot of respect for. That's probably, you got to have a lot of self-confidence to do that, which is also pretty cool.
Love it. And this will be the final thing. Do you have any practical advice, things that come to mind? I know the COO role, at least at Wolf, I know from Charles, our COO, the guy's working 24/7. it feels like. So are there any practical advice you have for being able to unplug, or are you able to generally just do that? Like once you're like, okay, I gotta unplug, I gotta watch a movie.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
that's one of the hardest things about working in Web3 is finding the space. So I think one piece, well, a few different pieces of advice, but they're all kind of related. I think one thing is you have to be really intentional with it. Like you have to carve out time every single day to do it. And it's hard. It's much harder than you think. It's so tempting just to pick up your phone quickly and check this, that, other thing, and you get sucked back into not just work, but I think being in Web3, right, where you're on Twitter, you're seeing what's going on, and I think no one can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? So I think being intentional, I think finding things that can get you into a flow state, and there's lots of different types of activities that do that for different activities for different people. I do a lot of exercise. I try and run every day.
Okay.
That's a great way for me just to my head kind of goes a bit empty and it makes me feel good and it's healthy and all the rest of it. And get enough sleep. Like make sure everyone thinks that it's some kind of badge of honor. It's like, oh, dude, I only slept 2 hours last night, or I didn't even sleep last night. That's crazy. I mean, it's so unhealthy, but also it's not sustainable. So I try and get at least 8 hours of sleep every night, which is not easy, but definitely makes me better at my job and means that I've got more energy and more kind of resilience as well.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. Every single time, if I sleep until like 11, I'm always like, how did that happen? Then I'm like, oh, it's because I sleep till 3. If I gone to sleep at 12, I would have woken up at 8, and it would have been totally fine. Like it's about that 7 to 8 hour gap that I'm finding.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, I'm more of an early to bed, early to rise kind of person when I can get away with it. It's hard if global industry, working with people I know on like the West Coast, which is where I am actually at the moment, or in Australia or whatever, it can be tough. But yeah, I think prioritizing sleep is the best thing that any of us can do. For sure.
I would tend to agree there. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Chris, I've learned a ton. This has been a super awesome conversation. Learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Kate. Anytime. Thanks for everything that you guys are doing. And thanks for your time, and thanks to everyone for listening. If anyone wants to know more information about Redacted, you can just Google it. And it is the last day to sign up today. So if you're going to be in Bangkok or you want to be in Bangkok, please come and meet us all. We've got some great speakers, including Edward Snowden, for example, is going to be there. It's all about self-sovereignty and empowerment of individuals, which is amazing. And just generally, if you want to learn anything more about the Near ecosystem, then just get in touch with me. And looking forward to it. So thanks so much, Kate. Really enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Dude, you as well. And everyone who put together Redacted, shout out to all of you, because that was definitely a lot of work, I know for sure.
It is.
Setting up even the smallest little event takes forever. So big shout out to everyone here. Repost the stream if you enjoyed it. Give Chris a follow. Go sign for Redacted, and we'll see you all later, everybody. Take care. And
thanks, everyone.